He took a home run away from Roland. Trying to get back to first Edmonds. He's doubled off, and the inning is over. Andy Chavez saved the day. Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied. Bing bong. Anthony for three. Puts it in. Knicks by one with 8.2 remaining. Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
To kick the Giants to the Super Bowl. Snap is good. Kick on its way. Endo Brandon that have the distance. It is good. Lawrence Tynes has kicked the Giants to the Super Bowl.
The Giants have won the Super Bowl. Can't wait.
When it comes to talking sports, they're the authority. It's Bob Walters and Brett Grasso. It's Locked Up Sports, and it starts now.
Bring them out, hey. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, hey. Bring them out.
Here we go. Bob Walters, Brett Grasso from the Brian Gunzel Studios. This is Locked Up Sports. We got a big one on deck for you here today. Jeff Pearlman, the author of the Bo Jackson, The Last Folk Hero book, will join us in a couple minutes.
Yep.
It's Yankee Elimination Show.
Aye.
And the Jets and the Giants keep winning. Brett, welcome to the show.
Jets and Giants. Best ever.
I call it playoffs for the Jets.
You're right. You're right.
So,
Daniel Jones, lifetime with Daniel Jones coming up.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth the first round playoff exit.
Every year.
Well, let's start this year. Daniel Jones for life. You do have a playoff game coming though.
Yeah, right.
Enjoy
Here we go.
that.
So let's start though with one of my favorite topics: the Yankees getting swept away by the Houston Astros. They have now lost 5 straight league championship series.
Why do you sound so happy every time?
Because I am happy.
You can't be.
Brett, do you remember when it comes to the Yankees? I root for plane crashes.
You caught so much heat this week from all the Yankee fans. Let me tell you, they were so upset, and you made them all feel so much better on Facebook this week.
I mean, listen, the Yankees they can hit. All right, they hit 142 for the series.
Yeah.
The pitching was okay. The game 4 was their best game of the series. They actually got guys to second and third base. In game 3, only one man touched third base. Yeah. It was not good.
Had Judge doing his final Yankee performance.
And then Judge struck out. Actually, made the last out. He got contact. He was a little dribbler, comebacker. It was like the one where they lost the World Series to the Marlins, where Beckett made the play. No, that was the Red Sox. Or was it the Marlins where Beckett made the last out? Either way, it was one in the World Series the Yankees lost, and that's all that matters, people. So the icing on top was when I found out the next day. Yeah. They have a wellness coach. Okay, right. The Yankees have a wellness coach. Whatever they do. He decided that it would be a good idea to show the team the video of the Red Sox coming back from down 0-3 against the Yankees in 2004. I mean, could you get any better than that? He has to be a Mets fan, right?
Imagine putting that package together.
I'm sending them one of my shirts.
Let me get all those Red Sox clips.
And then on top of that,
you know what? I'm thinking we need to motivate.
And if that wasn't bad enough, he said, okay, so we're gonna do that. Yep. And then I also set up a FaceTime call between Boone and Big Papi. Yeah. What?
Yeah, it's important. It's important.
Oh, it was classic. How could you be more tone deaf than that? So the Yankees, they're not hiring like Trump, the best and the brightest people. Or maybe they are hiring like Trump, the best.
They're not hiring anybody. They're retaining.
They're retaining.
So
Boone back.
Yeah.
Cashman back. Listen, I think it's time for Cashman to go. Okay, I think sometimes you've just been with a team too long. Cashman,
it's the whole. You have to realize. Yeah, there's a problem with that. Is one, is there a better option? 1, 2. If Cashman goes, you're talking about a house cleaning. Like all those people there's all those people besides for like 2 or 3 have been there since Cashman's been there.
Well, because the new GM would come in and he want his own people. It's like the Giants with Daniel Jones. Like that's not his quarterback.
You have to realize like they like these people. This is like they go to like the dinner.
I understand that.
And they're like, I like you, and they're like, we don't really have anybody better, and we don't want to ruin all your families. Like, I know your children. Like, I buy your children Christmas presents.
Yeah, but you're right.
That's where I think they're at.
These guys are business people, and they're still making a ton of money.
If they were business people, I mean, how many years are you going to go without winning a pennant?
Well, yeah.
Who's won the most recent pennant? Mets or Yankees?
Hey, good question. Who won the most recent pennant? Mets or Yankees? That's right. And you know what? It's been since 2009. That's a long. Listen, the Yankees.
It's too long. It's too long. If I was a Mets fan, I'd say it's too long.
And for the first time,
I'm just saying I don't think it's Cashman, but
for the first time in the history of the Yankees, the entire history, there's a team now. There's an organization that completely has their number. The Houston Astros have their number. The Yankees can't beat them. They can't do anything about it.
They have everybody's number. I don't think there's anybody's number they don't have right now.
Yeah, but the Yankees had everybody's number, but they still have the Red Sox.
I just think, no, the Astros are just, I mean, honestly, and the only reason we're not talking about it, we should be talking about the Astros, but the other team right behind them, and if you want to be worried about it, is the Braves. The Braves, it's the Astros and the Braves right now are two organizations that did such good jobs at organizations that they have retained the big players without having to overspend for them. Their farm system's so good where they keep making better talent.
Well, Freddie Freeman left the Braves.
Yeah, and they ended up replacing him instantly with Matt Olson, and for the production, for less money, for longer years that they're going to get production out of the guy. And on top of it, every other guy is signed through like 2032. The whole Braves lineup from top to the bottom, the next guy that is up for contract is like 2032. And I'll give you maybe 2 or 3 of those guys don't pan out what they should have been. Their contracts aren't even big. And you look at the Astros, it's a similar situation where the Mets and Yankees right now they're whole banking on this year of we're going to go out and spend as much money as we can on a guy and go get him. These other teams are not.
Yeah, no, and you know what it is now I want to be quick here because I want to do a quick World Series thing real quick, 2 minutes, and then we Jets Giants, then we got Jeff Pearlman coming up, so stick around. World Series now. World Series, it doesn't start till Friday, which is outrageous to me that they couldn't move it up a little bit. The Phillies, Bryce Harper hit the home run to send them to the, by the way, one of the better calls I've ever heard, the swing of a lifetime. Good. The swing of a lifetime, one of the better, and people are getting on him because he's young doing that game. One of the better calls you will ever hear. Go listen to it if you get a chance. The Phillies, do they stand a chance? Or are we looking at a 4 or 5 game series here?
With the pitching, they definitely stand a chance. They could be up 2-0.
And the Philadelphia's going crazy.
With their offense clicking like it is, and their pitching and their first 2 pitchers, if those guys, if they can go and split, and I'm telling you, they can go win both games. Do not sleep on the Phillies in terms of betting.
On the road?
Their pitching can go out and throw 8 innings of shutout ball. It's going to be a 1-0 game. No, like it's going to be 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1, one way or the other. And there's no reason it's not the Phillies for both games.
And Philadelphia's going crazy for this team. The get-in price for game 3 is $1,300. The price you want if you want a seat, that's standing room. That's the get in the building price. What? If you want a seat, $1,900.
Nobody's sitting.
$1,900.
Nobody's sitting. It's Philly.
So,
sit on the toilet. Are you getting ready to eat cheesesteak? That's about it.
And you know what sucks is because we hate Philly because it's Philly and we're Mets fans. But you almost want to root for Philly. But I also want to root for. I'm gonna root for Houston because of Dusty Baker. Because Philly's the underdog. They were the last team in the playoffs.
You root for coaches.
Well, Dusty Baker.
That's what you're into the guy who has the least going on the field. That's who.
He's who they're playing for.
So we're gonna next week we're gonna be on check out the website for our Do It for Dusty shirts. They're coming up.
So we got that. So that's it. So Yankees, see you next March.
I'm also with Dusty.
The Giants and the Jets. The Giants are 6-1. They are. Listen, they're in everybody's top 10 power rankings this week. They had another come from behind win. It was 1 yard short. They held the guy up at the 1 yard line. He didn't score. They beat Jacksonville. And you know what, Trevor? I said this on the bonus coverage for the newsletter. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a big quarterback in this league.
Yeah.
He almost looks like Brett Favre. He's got a Brett Favre type arm. Yeah. And ETN, their running back, is going to be good too. He's just got to learn how to hold on to the ball. That fumble at the end of the half killed them. Oh, my
God. That was so bad.
Killed them. That was a 10-point swing because they were going in for 7.
I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I actually saw that whole
It was a 10-point swing because they were going in for 7. And then
that was
Giants
it. No, that was the game. No, that was the game when it happened. I was like, oh, my God, that guy that's it. The momentum going into the half is always the biggest.
Now they're going to have a test this week, 425 in Seattle. In Seattle, I think the Giants will probably win.
Listen, Seattle with that big quarterback they traded for, the big. Oh, I'm sorry, they got rid of the quarterback. They brought in Geno
Smith.
You guys got the big quarterback you're going against this week.
And you know what? Give Pete Carroll credit.
And we know all about Geno. Jets and Giants.
Give Pete Carroll credit because he is. Who else are you going to give credit to? Geno Smith isn't just all of a sudden learning how to play quarterback now in the NFL.
Yeah.
He was not good for the Jets, for everywhere. He was backups.
He wasn't great. He wasn't ever bad.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say let me tell you, but that's a lot of guys, they go in and they're bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not easy to be
okay. I would say he was middle
It's not even easy to be okay because it's so hard to get past that threshold of I'm just not here trying to die.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. And Geno being in the league as long as he has and taking enough snaps, he is like actually looking at the receiver.
Yeah, I mean,
down the field in coverage. As these other guys are like, even in your first year, if you're Trevor Lawrence, it's okay. First hike, don't die.
And the speed is
throw it where the guy might be. Whereas Geno, listen, give them all some credit because Pete Carroll took a lot of crap all those years of them being on the edge and never doing it. As if Russell was the greatest quarterback of all time and they should have done more, or their defense was so good and they should have done more. And except for that one play, he should have ran the ball.
Yeah, he'll never live that down. But listen, this year in the NFL, you're seeing coaching and how important coaching is. Look at the Giants
and having an organization as opposed to one player.
Daniel Jones' numbers, if you look at his numbers this year and last year, they're not much different.
No, because you keep looking at his passing numbers.
He's holding onto the ball.
If you back off and you look at Daniel Jones as a whole, like you should. See, the problem is you look at Daniel Jones and you go, yeah, he's a drop back passer, right?
Yeah, he's running all over.
He's not a drop back passer. Daniel Jones is, if you add everything together, and I hate to even say it because I don't like him like long term, but the guy he runs the ball and isn't playing from behind, like really from behind, and he doesn't have to drop back and throw it like crazy. He's a pretty good quarterback.
Well, the number 4 rusher in the NFL is Saquon Barkley. The number 5 rusher in the NFL is Daniel Jones.
Let me tell you, you take away that on third down. If you told me on every play on third down, Daniel Jones couldn't scramble and make something happen where the fear of Daniel Jones leaving the pocket is enough where it's making him and that team be able to get out of those third and outs and get past those downs and get into better field position and run the ball better because there's a threat coming from many different levels, which is,
and the problem with that is it's not sustainable.
No, it's not when you go behind that. If they go against a good team, you're going to go against the team versus Kansas City where you're going to have to gunsling. You're going to have to go in there and score points versus these teams, especially when you get to the playoffs. And if you're a guy who's just trying to get to the next third down marker and get a couple, if you're down by 3 touchdowns, you're in trouble.
Well, if you're down by 3 touchdowns to the South Bay Lions in Sayville, you're in trouble. You're down 3 touchdowns, you're in trouble, period.
Not if you have the right quarterback, you're not. No, that's what we've learned around in the NFL. Down by 3 touchdowns at the half does not mean you're losing this football game in the playoffs.
What are you?
No, it doesn't.
Watching the Bills and the Houston Oilers games?
No, you watch them all. Let me tell you, when you're like teams tend to and you have good coaching or whatever, it hasn't been that way. Like I'm telling you, like that a guy like Daniel Jones, if he has to drop back and go throw for 400 yards, you lost the game.
Okay, so now your team.
If he ran, if he ran for 50 and threw for 200,
yes,
you won.
But it's not sustainable. He's going to get himself killed running around like that. These guys are too big. He's not. He's a big boy, but he's not like.
But it's Daniel Jones. Who gives a crap? We just need you to run through people this year, next year, and if you blow something out, we'll draft.
It is what it is.
Right.
Now, speaking of blowing something out, an injury bug, the Jets slammed with the injury bug. 2 key injuries. Brett, let's hear it.
I was so sick about this. Let me tell you, because Bob, who have I talked about every day since you've known about? For the last 3 weeks, I called you, I called Frank, I tried to get bets in for Offensive Rookie of the Year for Breece Hall.
You did try to get
I called everybody else, like, they don't have it on FanDuel. I was like, Breece Hall, guaranteed. And everybody else was like, wait, but... I mean, they already had the defensive rookie, Sauce Gardner, right? Or wait, no, what about their Garrett Wilson? He should be. He was the top pick, right?
Yeah. And
I looked over and I was like, Breece Hall. And let me tell you, that guy was head and shoulders above anybody else coming into this league as a running back. And the guy even showed you at the beginning of a 62-yard run for a touchdown early in that game, right before he ends up going down and tearing his ACL, and he's out for the year.
And
sick.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a shame because the Jets are playing well. They're not. It's not going to be sustainable now. They picked up. They traded for somebody, 6th-round pick for.
You think that's bad? You lose Breece Hall. That's bad. You lose Elijah Vera Tucker. Yeah, I'm talking Pro Bowl, All Pro. No, like as good as a lineman has been that has come out of the draft in recent years for any team, and he is. There you go, torn triceps. He's out for the year.
Now you got Patriots week this week. You got Belichick coming in. They're coming off being blown out by the Bears on Monday night.
Yep.
And
And not to mention, well, one, Mac Jones is starting, and Mac Jones only made it through like 2 series.
He got pulled. I don't care what Belichick says. He got pulled for performance.
He got yanked for performance. You had Zell or whatever his name is,
and they hate him. They hate him in New England. They hate him.
And now
they were chanting for the other guy since the first snap of the game.
And if Belichick was going to stick with Mac Jones, like this is your guy, no matter what, he really messed himself up by bringing in the other guy at that point in the game. Even if that was the better choice, and I would have too.
Zappy, right?
Zappy. If you went out, Zappy. If you went out and didn't play him, just stuck with Mac Jones, then you wouldn't be in this total quarterback controversy. Bringing him out and Zappy going out and lighting it up in the end of the second half,
well, I mean,
the first half.
The whole thing did a complete 180.
And then the second
3 plays, they had 14 points on the board.
Yeah. Okay, guess who had the under?
Oh.
Yeah, I had Mac Jones. First thing I saw was they had Mac Jones for over or under 240 yards passing. And I was like, he's not even going to play. I was like, under.
Okay.
And I went and decided to
they
go, you know what?
They wouldn't put that out there if he wasn't playing.
But I understand. I knew he was in the lineup. I knew he was going to be there. I don't even know if I knew he was going to be starting at that point. But I was like, there's a chance he doesn't even take half the snaps. Like, there's a good chance this is Bill Belichick. He doesn't even have he has 2 offensive coordinators.
Yeah. And
like, the guy doesn't play by the rules, even if this is going to be your guy. Like, I knew, Zappy was getting snaps at some point. So anyway, under 250 was a good bet, but I was like, let's add a little onto this. Some unders.
The parlay, the sucker parlay.
I was like, under.
So, I think the Jets can win this game. Jets can win this game. They can't be contenders for the playoffs anymore, though.
The Jets are underdogs at home.
Yeah,
versus the Patriots,
which is weird to me.
Which is what's been going on. We talked about this last week, and I expected the Giants to lose the game based on Vegas.
They were begging you to take the Giants.
Right.
And it almost happened.
And now I feel like this is the same thing with the Jets this week. The Jets are at home. They're getting points at home. They're winning games. They have a great defense. Their running back who they lost, yes, they lost him, but Michael Carter's a good running back, and then they went and picked up and traded for, who was it? Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. They traded a 6th-round pick or something for him.
Right, but again, he's at least you have a backup.
He's serviceable.
But your good running back, Michael Carter, isn't going to be just wiped out running the ball, 5 times.
You know what they got to do? The quarterback's going to have to throw the ball now.
Zach Wilson looked like crap last week. He looked like garbage last week.
Yeah, but as bad as
they won. I don't care. They won.
Because as bad as the Broncos are, they're still the best defense in the league.
Yes.
So
and that's where Breece Hall, a guy like him who carved them out for 62 yards, the moment he came out of that game, and you lose Elijah Vera Tucker, the guy who's blocking 2 guys. We can't get a lineman to block 1 guy. Tucker's blocking 2 at a time. And once they were out of the game, you took away that threat, and the Broncos were able to back off, play zone, see what was going on. Zach Wilson had to try and find openings which weren't there without the play action.
This is a world of difference, though, from it. I mean, listen, you're going from Denver, which is a bad team. That game was terrible to watch. It was just 3 and outs back and forth. Yeah. But Denver's a bad team with a great defense. Now you're going up against a defense that just got torn up by Fields in Chicago.
Yeah.
And they scored, 38 points or whatever it was. So, have Zach Wilson go out there, and now he's going to have to throw the ball. You're an NFL quarterback. Yeah. It's now time for Zach Wilson to step up, beat the Patriots at home, MetLife Stadium, win the game.
And we got our guy we talked about last week is active again. Elijah Moore's active.
Yeah, he's going to be. Listen,
what do you mean?
We need good. They made up.
We forget about Breece Hall running the ball. You know what we lost? We lost the guy out of the backfield catching the ball. We need to make up those yards.
Throw it downfield.
We lost a lot of yards. Yeah, but we need that guy. We need somebody else to step up.
You see, Zach Wilson's.
I don't care. His
Achilles heel is throwing outside the numbers. He's not very good at it. His arm strength is not the greatest, but throwing outside the numbers is trouble for him.
His arm strength is good. No. He has arm strength. I'll give you that right now. You have to realize this is a guy who's coming back probably before he's 100% with the knee, and you're pushing off and all the other stuff that goes on with it.
So do the Jets win?
I'm afraid to even say it because I'm on the wagon of if I keep saying they're going to lose, then we're going to be going.
I got them winning.
Listen, if you're talking about taking points, I'm definitely taking the Jets and the points.
All right, so now it's time for our we got all that out of the way. The Yankees. Now it's time for the main event here for today. It is going to be Jeff Pearlman. Here is our interview with New York Times bestselling author Jeff Pearlman. Okay, we are now joined by our guest. He's written everything from Walter Payton to the 86 Mets. His book, Showtime, about the Lakers dynasty of the 1980s is the basis for HBO's hit show Winning Time. And his latest book is The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. New York Times bestselling author Jeff Pearlman. Jeff, welcome to the show.
I'm always offended when people say New York Times bestselling author and they don't add ridiculously handsome man.
Yes.
So if you could do that again, maybe that's cool.
I don't lie on the show, Jeff. Come on.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So we both read this book, and now you interviewed over 700 people. The question that we both have when we first started was, is the airplane thing real?
The airplane thing is real. Now the question is, for people listening who don't know, that he was on a flight with the Chicago White Sox and the plane caught on fire. And there are two versions of the story. One is Bo Jackson had been in the cockpit and he came back out of the cockpit once the plane was on fire to calm everyone. The other one is the plane catches on fire and he runs up to the cockpit. And I wrote that both stories could be true because he's Bo Jackson and he's Superman. I think the one that is true, more likely, is he was in the cockpit because he really enjoyed talking to pilots. And when the plane caught on fire, he sort of was set back to calm everyone. And the cool thing is the plane had an emergency landing in Des Moines. It was like 3:30 in the morning. The guys were really shaken. I mean, the plane was literally on fire. And there's a kiosk in the Des Moines airport. It's closed, and there's a keg, and there's a lock on the keg. And Bo Jackson barehanded breaks the lock so all his teammates can drink beer at 3:30 in the morning.
When I read that, I was like, wait, is this fake? Like, and when all of a sudden I think back and I was like, no, this I think he's telling, like, these are real stories from people.
Yeah, they sure are.
That's the whole point. That's a myth. Yeah. That's the whole thing. It was a great opening of the book. Now, it starts out. You go through his whole life here, pretty much, and he starts out. He has a rough childhood. Thing that caught my attention because I'm a correctional officer, and I know you had said in the beginning your mother was a parole officer. Probation. So I noticed there were 3 moments he said that he went through where he could have ended up in jail, just another guy in Alabama in jail, and just go through that real quick for us.
I mean, he had a really rough upbringing, like really rough. He was living as one of 10 kids in a 3-room house, kids sleeping on the floor. His mom had 3 jobs. He was a maid in a motel. He didn't have running water in his house, so there was an outhouse where they would use a bathroom. He had a severe stutter. He was held back a grade. He was a bully. And there are these moments when he was little. Number one, when he beat the crap out of someone with a pool stick in a pool hall. And 2 instances where he almost shot people, like literally got his gun to shoot people. One, the kid wasn't there, and another kid ran away. And, he had an older brother who went to reform school. And it was something that scared the crap out of Bo Jackson, his idea of reform school, because his brother came back with all these stories of kids being sexually assaulted in reform school. And he desperately did not want to get sexually assaulted in a reform school, and sort of turned to sports as a way of, escapism and ultimately an escape. But he had very, very many sort of run-ins and moments in his early life where he could have gone a different direction. Many.
Yeah, I mean, I almost felt bad because, like, as I'm reading the book, I'm thinking, man, this guy was a bully. He was a jerk. But I felt bad thinking that because of he was obviously a product of his upbringing.
Yeah, well, I actually think that shows your background as well. Like, I think when you see a kid, he was going to school using his sister's hand-me-down shoes or socks. He was wearing socks to school. And when you see a kid as a bully, sometimes our instinct is to say, oh, what an asshole, he's a bully. But then you ask yourself, well, why was he a bully? What was in his life? What circumstances did he face at home? I think that's the case with him.
Yeah, and then now he grew up as a post-segregation pretty much most of his life, and in high school and stuff, it was still rough down in the South for black people. And I know one thing that stood out for me was the story about it was the night before a big game in high school, and his offensive line saw him in the car with a white woman. And the next day at the game, they completely took a play off, which could totally have killed his career if he got hurt or anything. But that was interesting to me. Yeah,
that was interesting for me too. And the guy who told the story is like, he'll never admit this, blah, 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 blah. But here's exactly what happened. We saw him with a white girl at a movie theater. And the next day, the first play of the game was a handoff to Bo, and we just stood there. The line just stood there, and Bo got, lit up a little bit. And he gets up and he says, what was that for? And one of the offensive linemen said, don't mess with the white girls. And that was from an offensive lineman on the team. But that was, I don't think Bo there's no way he would say in his life, he wouldn't be like, oh, prejudice really brought me down, blah, 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 blah. But as I write in the book, like, he lived in a really poor, crappy part of town because he couldn't live in a better part of town. His mom never had educational opportunities where she could have not been a maid. His house was his house because that's where he was relegated to live. The school he went to, like, there's so many things about growing up in that era that even if he didn't directly see the impact of race, clearly were directly impacted by race.
Yeah, and I mean, he basically won the gene pool because, like, things like when he just enters a decathlon, he doesn't even know what it is. He doesn't even know how to throw a discus. The first time he throws it like a Frisbee, it goes nowhere. The guy shows him, and then he wins the thing. Do you think track and field was his best sport?
I do. I really do. Certainly at that age. I mean, set 5 state records. He won back-to-back decathlons. I like the second time he won the decathlon, he did it on the sprained ankle, and he also never took his sweatpants off. Imagine, like, you're a kid from some school, and this guy's dominant, and he's not even taking his sweatpants off. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It seems like in anything he played or in any team he was on, he was the best on it, obviously, at his position, but he probably could have been the best at any position on most of the teams he played. I mean, even up until most guys can do that in high school when you're a great athlete, but when he got up into college and even into the pros, that was probably the case for most of the positions.
Yeah, well, I mean, their quarterback at Auburn were 2 guys, Randy Campbell and Pat Washington, and Bo had a stronger arm than both of them. I mean, they were at they played Michigan in the Sugar Bowl one year, and one of their punter was trying to hit the dangling scoreboard from up above, way up above. Couldn't do it. Bo picks up a ball, throws it, misses, throws it again, boing, hits the scoreboard. Like, in the history of the Super Bowl, 2 punters that ever hit it, and Bo just throws it and hits it. I mean, it was 70 yards straight up. He's just ridiculous. He threw a football 90 yards. You know, like, he was in high school. He was a team kicker. He was their best defensive player. He was a running back. He could do anything.
I mean, I saw John Elway throw the Vortex one time on a commercial, 120 yards.
Wow. Maybe Bo is no Elway. Both of them drafted by the Kansas City Royals, by the way, Elway and Bo Jackson.
Wow, that's a good one.
You know what was amazing with the draft with the he screwed over. I mean, listen, he got screwed over by Tampa with the way they didn't do they didn't talk to him. He lost his eligibility, but he really screwed them over. You lose the number 1 pick in the NFL, that's a big deal.
I strongly disagree with the idea he screwed them over. He no beef or anything, but he gave them ample warning that he was not going to go to Tampa Bay. I mean, there's a scene in the book that I just thought was funny where after they drafted him, and Hugh Culverhouse, the owner, enlists Steve Young, who was their quarterback at the time, to take Bo Jackson out for dinner. And Culverhouse thought Steve Young would be like his good pitch man. And Culverhouse leaves the table, and Bo leans into Steve Young and says, just so you know, there's no effing way I'm ever going to sign here. And Steve Young's like, all right, then, my job is over. Let's have dinner. You know, he had no interest in the Buccaneers. He let them know he had no interest. He hated the Buccaneers. He felt like they cost him his baseball eligibility in college. So they were dumb for picking him. In fact, the coach of the Bucs at the time was Lehman Bennett. And he said to the owner in the lead up to the draft, he said, don't draft him if we don't know for a fact he's going to sign. And the owner's like, nah, he'll sign. Once he sees the money, he'll sign. But Bo Jackson had more principle than that. He wasn't just going to sign for the money.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, most of the times with that number 1 pick, they have him signed. They have a contract signed a lot of times before you even get to the draft.
But the guy had options, you know. Most other guys don't. You play one sport and you come in and they go, this is what you're going to get. This is who you're going to play for. And, listen, he shows what he could have done playing baseball and playing football. I honestly, we talked about, his abilities, but is it true the guy was running like a 4.13 40 back in college, and then they're saying at the combine something in the range
uphill.
Like
you ran it uphill, bro.
I'm sure, probably in pads
with a broken leg in combat boots. Right?
Because I mean that stuff is like it competes with Olympians, and the guy could have been an Olympian, but
yeah, well, he was a great runner. He ran track. He ran track at Auburn. The thing that also, like, you have to remember that's crazy about it is he was 220 pounds. Yeah. Like, Tyreek Hill is probably the fastest guy in the NFL. Right. Tyreek Hill is not running a 4.13 40, period. And Bo Jackson outweighed him by 40 pounds. Bo Jackson ran a 4.13 40 at Auburn. He shows up with the Raiders in '87. They have him run a 40 on grass in pads. He runs a 4.19. They ask him to do it again. He runs a 4.17. Wow. Like, his speed power combination has never been anything like it.
Now, what about the pop up where he ran around the bases and the guy lost it in the lights or whatever? The high school game He popped it up.
Yeah, Fairfield. Bo was at McAdory. He was playing Fairfield High. This is in Alabama. I started hearing rumors about a play where Bo Jackson hit a ball so high that he was rounding third by the time it came down. And, I'm like, give me a break. Like, there's no way that happened. But then you start talking to people, and they're like, no, it happened. More people, no, it happened. And finally, I talked to the left fielder, Eddie Scott. He was literally playing left field. He was the one where the ball came to. He's like, it happened, man. I'm telling you, it happened. I was in the outfield. It's the highest fly ball I've ever seen in my life. I lost it for a second. It comes down. I pick it up. Bo is rounding third, heading for home. He's like, I swear. So, here's the thing that I do mean. Like, the title of the book is The Last Folk Hero. And I say it because a lot of these stories, there wasn't, like, no one did see him run. There's no video of him running a 4.13. There's no video of him running a 4.17. There's no video of the game against Fairfield High where he's rounding third. So, there is some folklore to the stories. And maybe if there were video, like maybe that ball hit a pole, or maybe it hit a pigeon, and the pigeon caused the ball to make a weird pass. And maybe by the time, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have video of it, but I have 10 people telling me the story. And I am willing to acknowledge, like, this book, there's a little bit of wink, wink, nudge, nudge with the stories. Like, you can believe this. Maybe it did happen this way. Maybe it didn't. But here are 10 people telling you the story.
What do you think? How do you think you would compare if Bo Jackson was coming up today with the social media and the Instagram and the TikTok, and since it would be more right out in front of you, do you think we would even think even more of Bo Jackson actually seeing it in person? Or is that, the folk hero, or, the mystique of Bo Jackson, or the concept of maybe a little bit was fudged a little bit more than we knew, why he's such a big deal?
I think it would definitely be less fun. Like, I do think it's more fun to have the stories. But I like, obviously social media has its place, I guess. But, like, seeing everything, absolutely everything, definitely takes away a little of the luster.
Yeah.
Like Santa Claus, if you're a kid, Santa Claus is amazing. Going to a mall and seeing Santa Claus is amazing. Seeing a guy changing into a Santa Claus suit in the back closet of the mall is not amazing. And so, like, a lot of the stories, maybe his 4.1340, maybe his hand was in front of the line. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, I like thinking he ran a 4.1340. So I think he would hate social media. Like, he's on social media and he kind of sucks at it. Like, he's not very good at it. He's not overly warm and gooey. He's not gushy. So I think it's better that he was a guy of the 80s and 90s.
All right. Now, is there something you want to tell us about the Santa Claus at the mall, Jeff? No, right?
I once did a story when I was at the Tennessean about mall Santa Clauses, and those guys deserve medals of honor for the amount of crap they take from kids throwing up, obnoxious parents, on and on and on.
That's funny. Now you're sitting here, you're talking. We're just three Mets fans talking to each other here. The bad guys won. Now, actually, let's start with real quick with the John Rocker interview. I know you hate talking about it, but we'll go through it real quick. Do you think he knew how bad the reaction was going to be when he was saying those words to you? Did he truly believe those words?
I think he believed them. I don't think he knew. There's no way in hell he knew this interview was going to get me demoted, suspended, and lampooned on Saturday Night Live by Will Ferrell. Like, there's no way he knew that. I think he thought, I always say this, I think he thought we were two white guys in a car. And, he knew I was a reporter. I had a notepad out and I had a tape recorder. So he knew I was a reporter. But I just honestly think, in his sheltered worldview, we're two white guys in a car just chatting. And it's like, yeah, man, I don't really work that way. I'm not.
Do you think he probably had interviews like that in other places where that was the situation?
Maybe, but he was still a young player at that point. Maybe. The thing is this: I'm not in the business of replacing, of protecting homophobic, racist, xenophobic assholes. Like, it's not my lot in life to do that. Yeah. It's possible he was a very young player, so it's also possible this was his first real one-on-one interview with a reporter at a big place. So maybe that's it. Either way, he's giving me his opinions. Okay, he's calling a black teammate a fat monkey, and he's talking about quote unquote queers on the 7 train and welfare moms and all that stuff. Like, I'm a reporter. My job is to get into him and who he is. And if someone gives you the gift of opening up, you take it. You just do.
Hey, listen.
I didn't know he'd be suspended and fined. I had no idea. I wasn't happy about that. I'm honest to God, I'm of the opinion, like, if you run a league like Major League Baseball, the NFL, or whatever, that you have a wide swath of people from a wide swath of backgrounds. Not everyone is going to share your liberal view. Not everyone's going to share your conservative view. But if you want them to talk to the media, you just have to prepare that not all of them are going to have very PC views. And so I didn't like that he was suspended. I think if you expect people to talk and to be honest, that's what you're going to get.
Well, I mean, it worked out great. I mean, you were running a go pattern, and the DB fell down, and you were all alone basically with that one. He gave you a layup with that one.
Yeah, I mean, he did. And if you read the article again, it was really me just putting it out there. Like the article's not even very good. It's just very straightforward. It's nothing snazzy about it. He just, when a guy talks, sometimes he just gives you the material.
Now you're at the age where we're both 41, so you're a little bit older. You were the '86 Mets were right in your wheelhouse. That's the perfect time to win a championship. For me, it happened with the '94 Rangers at that age.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the team and about that book real quick.
It was my first book. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was excited to dive into my youth. I was 13 years old, which going on 14 when that season was happening. I used to. My neighbor in Mahopac, New York, was a guy named Vinny Gargano. His son Dennis was a good friend of mine, but I would go to their house, and Mr. Gargano would always be watching the '86 Mets. He'd be smoking Viceroys, drinking a Coke, and watching the Mets. And I got my real education from baseball by hanging out with Mr. Gargano. And that team was they were wild and they were destructive, and they were perfect New York for the time period, which is spray paint and hookers and graffiti and peep shows and, the kind of a dirty, gritty city. Like they were that team. And I just loved them. And I loved writing about them. I loved hanging out with them. And it remains like, of all the books I've written, it's definitely the book I'm most identified for. Of all the fan bases I've covered, from Mets to Cowboys, Lakers, all that, the Mets fan base is the one I feel like that's embraced that book in a certain way. Where if you say the bad guys won, a decent number of people seem to know. They may not know my name, but they seem to know the book.
Yeah.
And that is an incredibly, I really mean it's like warm feeling to me. That means something to me. So I love that book, man.
Now, what was funny is it actually changed. When I read it, it changed a little bit of my point of view because I've had a couple encounters with Keith Hernandez, right? And he's just a jerk. He's been a dick to me almost every time I met him. And in the book, you go about, you're like, that's what I liked about this team. And I was like, you know what? I can see that. I can see that a little bit.
Well, yeah, I liked that they were gritty and grimy. There's no excuse for being a jerk to someone. So I don't know. I've heard that, right. And I've heard that about Keith also, that he can be not very nice. And on the one hand, with public figures, they do get bombarded at times, and it gets old. But to me, there's very little excuse for being an asshole to someone. Maybe whatever. Everyone has a bad day. You have to allow people a bad day. But multiple, like I don't know if you guys saw the whole James Corden thing and the way he treated the waiter and the wait stuff. Like, it's hard for me to excuse that kind of behavior. Like, I get you're famous and I get whatever, but you should always be nice to the waiter. You should always be nice to the thing that always bothered me about Barry Bonds when I covered baseball is he wasn't nice to the people he didn't have to be nice to. It's easy to be nice to the reporters. It's easy to be nice to your teammates. How are you treating the guy who shines your shoes? How are you treating the guy who's your waiter? How are you treating the guy who holds the door for you? I think those are judges of character.
Yeah. I think athletes have realized these days and have actually made a point to go out, whether or not that was how they were going to be. Well, let me tell you, it was very difficult to go get certain autographs or go approach players back when we were kids, where a lot of times they would be like, get out of here or whatever. And now I feel like they know, maybe it's because the cameras are in their face and everything's so, front and center. But either way, I think it makes for a better experience for fans.
We're also adults now. I'm not looking for Michael Conforto's autograph.
Right.
He's 20. He's a kid, Like, I enjoy watching him play and I enjoy this, but he's a kid. He's a 20-year-old kid, but I like a picture with Keith Hernandez. That's it.
Yeah.
I think I'm sorry, what's that?
I just think they I think guys like Keith, I do think there's a tendency to view older fans skeptically. With skepticism, if you're an athlete or a former athlete, and you're like, what do you want from me? Like, I get it if it's a kid who's 14. Why are you asking me for a picture? Why are you asking me for an autograph? You're 40 years old. Are you going to sell it? What are you going to do with it? Blah, 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 blah. Which I get. I actually do get. Because there is a long history of athletes being taken advantage of by money-hungry assholes.
Yeah, no, you're right. Now, you made news when the Brett Favre story broke. You didn't want to, you told people to stop reading your book. I think this is a serious crime. He's a terrible person for this. He's already been a bad guy.
It's been entirely underreported. People have not brought him to the forefront like they would have so many other athletes if they had the same scenario happen, especially somebody as famous as he is and has been in the front with other bad things that he's done in the past.
Yeah, what do you think about that real quick?
I think it's gross. I think it's really disturbing. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of friendly from writing the book about Favre with Jen Sturger, and that's the reporter who he sent the pictures of the dick pic. And I think we should have washed our hands with Favre then. Like, to be honest with you, like he did that when he was with the Jets that one year. Then he has this year in Minnesota where we're back to being like, he's the gunslinger. Look at this old guy. We're doing glowing portraits. Like, he sent pictures of his dick to a sideline reporter. He ruined her life. He ruined her career. They got out, and like we should have washed our hands. So then he comes along, and it's unfathomable, man. You're from the poorest state in America. You're from Mississippi. There is an enormous, poor, largely African-American population in your poor state that depends on welfare funds, like depends on it so they can eat. And you're having money diverted from that to pay for a volleyball gym at Southern Miss because your daughter plays volleyball there. Like, I always think, like, you're Brett Favre. You played in this super diverse world for 20 years. You played with teammates who grew up on welfare. You know what it is. You've seen through conversations, through experience, what it is to grow up poor and black in America and in Mississippi. And to be so disconnected from that you're willing to just have money taken from welfare and put into a volleyball gym just to be blunt, is one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and he's the law. He got the most welfare of anybody in the state, and also he kept going back to her for more and more and more.
He could have went and raised that money with his name and his fame.
And what happens to every criminal like this? They rounded up the rest of them, and they were like, "Hey, look, you're going to prison for a long time. You got anything for us?" And she goes, "I got Brett Favre."
Yeah,
and that's
the other thing that's pathetic, like really pathetic, is like you're the Governor Bryant, the former governor of Mississippi, and you're doing all this for Brett Favre. Like, get a life, man. Brett Favre, like you're so enamored by this guy because he was a great quarterback that you're willing to do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how freaking pathetic. Like, I just think it's so pathetic. You're so enamored by this guy because he was a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers that you're going to allot welfare money for a volleyball gym? Are you that big of a loser?
It's almost,
like, are you 13 years old? I mean, it's pathetic.
It's almost like a 40-year-old man wanting a picture with Keith Hernandez.
Yeah, who would do that? What's going to lose it?
As long as you don't sell it.
Yeah.
Now, what's your next project?
I do not know yet. I'm talking about it, but I am unsure.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, what do you want him to write about, Brett? What do you want to read?
Wow. Well,
87 Mets.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Joe, because
we get around about the 90s Mets.
I was at all three of those games. I was ticked off at the empty seats. I think it's the Mets overpriced the seats, but there was a ton of empty seats in the upper deck. I'm still pissed off about that. And we can't lose to the Padres. They're the Padres.
No, you can't. It's kind of like when the Yankees beat the Padres in '98 in the World Series, and I covered that World Series, and you just knew the Yankees were going to win. There was no doubt about it. This series, like, I guess they came in really limping, but it's really pathetic that they lost to the Padres.
It is
because they'll always be the Padres to us. The not good
team. The goofy uniforms and like Tony Gwynn and nobody else. Yeah.
The Mets come in as underdogs and end up overperforming and giving us something to cheer about. But to come in as this this team that is doing what they were expected to do and then be so disappointing, we're not used to this. And I am like, usually by July we don't have to worry about everything. We can move on with our summer and enjoy it.
Yeah, but look, okay, gotcha.
I was going to say, I do think Buck did a really good job this year. I think they have a pretty strong foundation. I don't think this is the kind of season that takes the legs out of a franchise. I think they look back at this as a building year, and I think that they're really prepared to have a pretty good run. So I don't think the Mets are about to limp off, start 81 win seasons again. I think they're an organization with a free spending owner and a really good manager and a really good talent foundation.
Yeah, they'll be good. Now,
so it was like 85.
Yes, like 85. Yeah, I'm someone I like to point out obvious things to people, and I was laughing the other day so hard when I read your tweet when it said, "I don't understand why people call going out of bounds to stop the clock a veteran move." That's something you learn in high school, and 6-year-olds know that. And I was like, oh, he hit the nail on the head so right because it's a something that they say all the time. Oh, he went out of bounds. Such a veteran move.
Yeah. No, honestly, most of the guys don't even realize it in these days and end up staying inbounds or not knowing which way to go.
I guess, but like I was watching that Bears Patriots game a little bit, and they'll be like, Justin Fields, you can tell he's young because he didn't throw the ball away out of bounds on that play. And it's like, I don't know, man. I think most people know, like, he just screwed up. Like, I don't know if someone deserves a lot of credit for knowing to throw the ball out of bounds because it stops the clock. Like, even if you're Justin Fields and you're just 23, like, you have been playing football for 10 years. I would think you would know to throw it. Doesn't mean in the heat of the moment you don't screw up. Obviously you do. They're just humans. I do think we give athletes credit for, you can just tell the savviness of the veteran stepping out of the plate when the pitcher was taking too long. Well, that's kind of what you're,
yes.
what you're supposed to do, man. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yes, yes. My wife wanted me to tell you that she is now in the middle of the Bo Jackson book. She loves it. She's already ordering more of your books, so she loves it. His name is Jeff Pearlman. The book is The Last Folk Hero, The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson. Jeff, appreciate the couple minutes here today.
Appreciate it.
Oh, it was good talking with you guys. Thanks.
Awesome. How about that, Brett? How about that?
I could have done that one all day too. He was he got all the info.
That was great. And listen, we both read the book, The Last Folk Hero. Make sure you pick it up. You could get it anywhere books are found. You could get us anywhere podcasts are found.
We got to get him back after the Mets win the World Series next year.
Yeah, well, listen, he's coming back. He's our buddy now. I got his phone number, so
nice.
he's our buddy now.
Sure, gonna love that.
You should see my Rolodex now, Brett. It's great.
Oh,
it's great. It's great.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah.
I just can't get drunk on my phone because
young
then
kids
I'll start
are using
calling,
TikTok. Bob's using his Rolodex.
I'll start calling people.
Is that like a
Rolodex?
It's like a TikTok, but with papers.
It's kind of more of like a Facebook with papers.
I understand.
You know,
so
you
it's
go
got
through
all your friends.
Updates.
It's like MySpace.
My friend MySpace.
It's MySpace.
I got my top 5. You know,
that's good.
So the book, The Last Folk Hero: The Life and Myth of Bo Jackson, excellent book. Pick it up. That pretty much does it. We're brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, a better place to get tickets. Remember, if you go into these games, Rangers, Knicks, anything, enter Locked Up Sports in the promo code at checkout.
You're going to do lockedupsports.net. Check us out on our Instagram page, Facebook stuff, YouTube channel. You can actually see the video on our YouTube channel. We'll end up putting it up. We got the whole ticker with all the lives of the games.
Everything's
and all
going,
that.
everything.
Yeah.
We got it all. So look us up, tell your friends, rate and review us. That pretty much does it for today. For Brett Grasso, I'm Bob Walters. We'll talk to you next week, everybody. See you.